So we did it. We are back from U.S. Nationals. We went through the whole event. We experienced its amazing highs and some unfortunate lows. You know, early on in the experience, I was really hoping that the most unfortunate thing that I would experience at Nationals was a churro that I got at the concession stand that instead of being made with cinnamon and sugar had been dusted with cinnamon and all of the salt and was the most disgusting thing I think I have ever tasted.
The face you made was, it said everything. Bad,
it
real
was
bad.
Utterly revolting. But my thought after I had it was, you know what? Hopefully that is the most tragic thing that I experienced at this Nationals.
If only that was the case.
If only that was the case. There were some pretty unfortunate things, but the highs were extraordinarily high, and the event itself was pretty wonderful. And St. Louis really turned out as well as the the people who came in from out of town and stuff. So it was pretty amazing. So
out of my hometown.
Yeah. STL really did show up for it in a big way, which was awesome. But yeah, Wen, take it away.
Well, welcome to Scoreography, a podcast about the greatest sport on ice, figure skating. I'm Wendy Buskey.
And I'm Adrian Buskey. And again, we are talking about U.S. Nationals, U.S. National Championships 2026, which were held here in our town of St. Louis. We were there on site for the entire event,
yes.
Minus a couple of group ones on Friday and Saturday.
There were limits in terms of our schedule, especially when you're not on vacation and you can come home. There are still more responsibilities that you need to take care of.
Yes. And we live about 25 minutes outside of the city. So there was a commute for us both ways. But it was pretty convenient for us overall.
Extremely.
We also got to go to a couple of author events that also had elements of figure skating attached to them as well, which was pretty cool. We got the opportunity to meet a lot of listeners at the event.
Oh my gosh.
I thought it was really kind of fascinating the number of people who would meet us and say, "Oh, you're the Buskies."
I know, and the funny thing is, so few of our friends ever reference us that way.
Yeah.
And it was delightful. It was just,
and we don't call ourselves that.
No.
We don't refer to ourselves
Never.
that way. So it was just interesting that numerous unconnected people referred to us in that fashion.
Yes.
Which I just thought was kind of fascinating.
It was so amazingly delightful and sort of surreal just to, I don't know, be sitting in your row and have somebody just walk up to you and be like, "Oh, you're the Buskies." And it was, I'm so grateful. It was just such a wonderful experience to meet you and to, I don't know, hear people talking about what we were putting out into the world and feeling positive about it. That, I don't know, it was very meaningful. So thank you to you all. It was wonderful.
Yeah. So we got a chance to stand around and talk with a bunch of you and sit in some of the rows with you. And all of that was really cool. So it was excellent to meet as many of you as we got a chance to. We also didn't get to meet a lot of other people, I think, just because of hectic schedules and things. So we didn't get a chance to holler at you or get a selfie or something with you while we were at the event. Apologize, and hopefully we'll do it at the next one. But,
yes. And hopefully next time we'll actually coordinate some kind of meetup that's a little bit more in advance so we can do that. But this year it was our first nationals, so we just really wanted to embrace the experience and focus on the competition, which was so stacked and so incredible that it's really hard to narrow it down. But I do really feel like we need to start with the women's event. Yeah,
I think that the two events that stand out the most as far as just absolute gratification are definitely the women's and the ice dance events.
For sure.
But the women's is the one that is going to be the media narrative.
It already is. The big three, as everyone's calling them.
Yes.
It is astounding to have watched this event in person and be like, "Oh, this is the best U.S. Nationals women's event I've ever seen." Hands down.
It was extraordinary. We got the top three and the three that will be part of the Olympic team that we expected. Like you said, it's the big three. It is Amber Glenn, Alyssa Liu, Isabel Levito. It's a dream team. I mean, they
Completely.
are a fantastic group of women and skaters and entertainers and personalities.
Their personalities.
Their personalities, yeah. Before we kind of dive into all that, I do want to note that we because we saw this in person and because we came home Sunday and we were going to record right after we got home, and I immediately passed out for like 4 hours. I was shot. I was so tired after all of this. So we haven't rewatched anything from the feed. And we haven't like dug through the protocols. So our experience we're going to be talking about is the experience of seeing it in person and the reaction to the arena viewing experience, and not a big number protocol breakdown.
Exactly. We are not going to talk a lot about cues and under rotations and a lot of that more subtle like nuance, because we can't yet. We'll get there in like when Europeans happen in 4 days, which makes me tired right now. But on this particular episode, we're going to have to kind of scooch past that. I mean, in favor of feelings and vibes. and also, I mean, we do have scores.
Yeah,
there are scores.
We do have scores, but, and also I think it is worth noting, like, and we talk about this a lot, national scores are not quite real.
No, they're
and
not.
It doesn't matter what federation. We've pointed out plenty of times that like US national scores or Canadian nationals or like, lots of other federations, you will see those scores come in and there's this certain level of inflation. And
they're trying to send everybody to the Olympics with the biggest numbers they can justify-ish.
Yeah. Let's face it, there's a certain level of gamesmanship that is happening through the course of any national title. And we saw a little bit of it with like Japan, right? And
we also saw a good amount of it, at least I feel like we did here with a few of the events and disciplines.
Certainly, yeah. And I think that there will be, I don't know if we'll call them controversies, but I think there's going to be a few places where people are going to be a little disgruntled about how certain people were scored or how some of the things like, came out. I think when we get to the men's, there's some stuff that will raise a lot of eyebrows. But
I'm thinking more about the pairs.
The pairs is a whole other kind of thing.
But let's start with the women. I want to talk about Amber Glenn.
Yeah. So let me preface our conversation of the women by saying that this event, particularly the free skate, was so exciting that I bruised my hand clapping.
You did. You have a huge bruise on your hand.
It won't show up on camera, but because it's starting to fade. But like by the time we got to Saturday and Sunday, I had to be careful how I clapped because I literally hurt myself in my excitement at the women's event. It's so interesting to look at really a top four here when we talk about, because also this is national, so there are pewter medals. And Brady Tennell lands just off of the regular podium, but does get a pewter. So the top four women have all been U.S. national champions. They are all decorated on the international stage. But when you look at the top three, Amber Glenn is a former Grand Prix final champion. Alyssa Liu is the reigning world champion.
And Grand Prix champion.
And the Grand Prix final champion. Mm-hmm. And Isabeau Levito was a former world silver medalist. This is a high-powered group of women standing on this podium. And that sets us up for a really fantastic Team USA.
It sets us up incredibly well. And also, you cannot tell me that NBC isn't just like losing their minds right now, because they have not only the three most viable women going to the Olympics that we have sent to the Olympics in a long time. It's not just, they have a shot at a medal. They're favorites for a medal. Mm-hmm. All of them could medal. And that's not taking anything away from the fact that all of the Japanese women could medal, and Jia Shin could medal, and
Adelia Petrosian
could medal. It's like all of these women are entirely capable of taking the whole thing on the right day. So it's really exciting because they're in past years, we've had wonderful skaters. Like last time we had Mariah Bell and Karen Chen, who I adore, but they were long shots. Mm-hmm. These are not long shots. Mm-hmm. These women are incredibly talented and very close and really could all at any given competition take it. So the excitement is palpable. Amber Glenn, though, seeing her in person, this is my first time. Actually, the first thing I saw going into a practice on Tuesday before the competition started, we were walking down a hallway, and out of the corner of my eye, I could just see Amber Glenn go in for her triple axel and land it.
That was the very first
thing. And I was like, this is going to be awesome. And she was so magnetic, even in those practice sessions. It was just so identifiable. And you can tell on TV that that is the case, that she is that good. But in person, she is magnetic. It is unreal how good she is. And oh my God, I'm so excited to see her at the Olympics. So excited.
We've talked before about how there are some skaters that, like, when you see them in person, you just get this completely different kind of experience. Ilia Malinin is one of them.
Yes, he is.
When we talk about Riku Miura and Ryuichi Kihara from Japan, how like seeing them in person is just a very different kind of experience. Seeing Amber is like that. She moves differently. She moves powerfully. She's so fast. Her glide and her carriage is just completely different from anybody else's. And yeah, when you're watching her, even just in warm-ups, it's striking to see her on the ice. And she delivered 2 absolutely phenomenal skates here. I mean, her short program was essentially flawless. I mean, just exceptional. There was like maybe a tiny bobble in the free, but it didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things overall.
Especially at nationals, she already had it so in check that it was hers.
Yeah.
There was no question that it was hers.
Yeah.
And I really think it's extraordinary that both Amber Glenn and Alyssa Liu scored the 2 highest short program scores ever by women at nationals.
Yeah.
And it was clear watching both of those short programs, especially because Alyssa's had me in tears by the end of it.
Oh my gosh, it was extraordinary. But you know what? I want to keep talking about Amber just for a second, which is like her Like a Prayer short program. You know, we've been watching that develop this whole season, and you could always look at it and go, oh, this is the kind of program that when it hits, it is going to just be extraordinary. And here is where we saw it like fully live up to the promise that it's had this entire time. It got into the end of the song, and I had this moment, I think I talked to you about it afterwards, but I had this moment where I was like, it was so compelling and so cinematic seeing it in the arena that when it hit the Let the Choir Sing part, if a full robed choir had stood up in the front row and started singing the rest of I wouldn't have been surprised. I'd been like, this is what happens in movies. And I feel like I'm in a movie right now. Yeah. I was like, hell, I haven't worn choir robes in 30 years, but I'd have put them on and been ready to sing, right?
Well, also, I love your analogy, and it's fantastic, and it is accurate. But also, you could feel the entire audience in the last 30 seconds just being like, I want to stand. I'm ready.
Yes.
I'm ready. I want to do it right now. Like it was just, you felt everyone just ready to jump.
We had to let her finish, but nobody wanted to. They just wanted to get up. And I think that like when you look at that final 3 in both the short and the free, you get these really extraordinary tempo and emotional changes between them, because like transitioning on to Alyssa, and of course we get that Loewe program in the short, which
stunning.
Getting to see that in person, I'm just so grateful that we got that. It was
a gift. It was like, seriously, I was sitting there like, I get to see this live. I felt so lucky getting to see that, and it was just as beautiful as I hoped it would be. She just delivered on every level. And I thought the interesting thing, because again, I've never seen Alyssa Liu live. This was a first. And she is fascinating in her warm-ups and her practice sessions, like where you're seeing her like in that like full group of the women. She takes everything so measured and so slowly. Others are out there like running around like really quickly and just getting their feet under them. And she's just doing what you expect Alyssa to do in her personality, like kind of just very slowly like, okay, doing a single, doing a little spin. Maybe I'll do a double over here. And then she slowly builds it up. And it's fascinating just to watch her versus a lot of the others. Her approach is even in that so different. And it works. It obviously works.
Yeah, it's very clear that her methodology is something kind of new in the sport, I think. I mean,
based on what others have said, yes, I assume so.
The short program was it was like an emotional experience. Like it was an extraordinary thing. I feel like I've said that word already a ton, and I'll probably say it more, but it really was an emotional, breathtaking, like meditative thing, like
very calm.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt watching her in every program. It was calm. It like all of this intense energy was behind Amber and all of this like awe of beauty watching Isabeau. With Alyssa, it was just serene. Like you just never felt nervous. You're like, she's got this. It's fine.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean it wasn't exciting. It just was a totally different emotional experience.
There's an assuredness. I think there's sometimes some people you're watching and you're on your edge of your seat because you just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And by the time you get 1/3 of the way through an Alyssa program, there's just a sense of like utter security. Like she's going to nail this, so you just feel good about it. And
I will say though, the Lady Gaga program that she finally debuted here, number one, amazing dress.
Oh, like, yeah. The platinum dress is fantastic.
Incredible. Yes. So good. The program felt like a brand new program. And that's not a diss. It's a, like, it was not polished yet. And it was still great and super fun to watch and so competently skated.
Mm-hmm.
That calm was still there. Like, you weren't worried about her. But having seen her do the Leve program and also like seeing her exhibition, those are comfortable, confident, like polished pieces. This felt very much like this is brand new, which it is. So that makes sense. But right after the competition, we saw news come out that she's going back to MacArthur Park for the Olympics. And I kind of breathed a sigh of relief, honestly.
I got to think that there was a certain level of feedback of, you're not going to get another opportunity to compete this internationally before you go to the Olympics because, they're not sending her to 4 continents. And understandably, you're going to want to send a program that feels lived in.
Exactly.
And I think the difference watching the short and the free was like the Leve program is so lived in, and you can feel that the muscle memory is there. So instead of it feeling like tired because we've seen it for 2 seasons, instead what you get is a program that feels like a musician who knows their craft and knows how to play their song, but because they don't have to worry about the technical aspect of it, instead it feels like they can just inform it with emotion and thought and they can be present in it. And when we got to the Gaga program, it felt like she had to think her way through it a lot more.
That's a really good way of putting it.
I think that would make a awesome gala program.
I also think it could be just save that for next season since she does not, at least she has not stated that she is planning to re-retire. Put that in your back pocket and you've got the start of a fantastic program for next season that then will have time to grow and be polished into what it could be.
Yeah. But I think because you look at Amber Glenn's back-to-back programs, even though Alyssa is the reigning world champion, Amber was just the better combo of those two.
She was dominant.
Yeah, I think it was undeniable.
It was.
I've seen a few people, there's always the stylistic thing where like I saw a couple of people say in comments on Instagrams in places that like they were like, well, like, they really thought Isabeau should have won the whole thing. And
Isabeau was second in the free.
Yeah. And
by less than 2 points.
Yeah. And Isabeau, just to transition to her here, was
also extraordinary.
Yeah. Just like those were gorgeous programs, beautifully skated. The thing with Isabeau that we always just kind of have to talk about is that, those toe jumps that always worry us because of the technique involved, but they looked really strong here.
She in general looked as solid as I may have ever seen her.
Yeah. I think her free program was essentially flawless.
Yeah. Her free skate was, if Amber wasn't so fantastic and compelling, I would agree that Isabeau was nearly flawless in that free. So if she had even won the free, I don't think I would have argued because Amber did have that one mistake on her last triple loop.
Yeah.
But like stylistically, I could totally understand why someone would be like, but I prefer Isabeau. These 3 are so closely matched.
Yeah.
It really is almost a matter of preference.
Right. And of course you have to acknowledge that Amber Glenn has the triple axel.
Yes, for sure.
And which
it did have a cue from what I understand. I know we said we weren't going to talk about cues, but
yeah.
That one, the triple axel and the free did have a cue.
Well, and we will talk about some of those things because there are places. So one of the things I think is always worth kind of noting when you have the at-home experience versus watching it in the arena is a lot of that stuff is not as obvious when you see it in person, when you don't have the camera close up.
Yeah, and the replays don't give you the boxes to kind of give you the indicator that they're being reviewed.
Right.
So you're just we were just watching the screen replays whenever they were being shown, because sometimes they weren't when there were in-arena interviews happening. So we'd only get to see some of the jumps and kind of guess at what we were looking at.
Yeah. And now there were times where we could also see very obvious cues or under rotations.
Yes.
But, the viewing angle that you have in the arena makes a pretty big impact on it. And yeah, not having just the feedback of having the boxes up on the screen to kind of track along with it does make it a little bit harder. But I mean, I think in general, Isabeau of these three has like kind of the lowest like technical like ceiling. I think maybe it's maybe comparable to Alyssa's.
Yeah.
But regardless, her programs were so beautifully performed. She's the most classic styling of the three of them, because all three of these women skate radically different. And it's one of the things that I love about them is that when you look at the 6 programs between the three of them, like they're
all so different.
They're so different. They're so unique. Every one of them has their own very authentic vibe. They're doing their own thing. But at the same time, they're showing such a tremendous amount of genuine support for each other.
Yes.
It's such a remarkable thing to see. There was a moment when Isabeau was getting her free skate score, and she got that like huge score on it, and Alyssa was on the ice getting ready to skate, and Alyssa was looking up at the screen and saw the score come down, and she immediately sort of jumped up and down clapping and sort of turned around in this like, oh my gosh, you did so well. And typically we see a skater trying to ignore what that previous score was, or not really acknowledging it and just trying to stay focused.
At most, maybe a slow clap
because
here.
they got to do their own job, right? And they're trying to stay focused on their own routine. And instead, Alyssa was just there cheering for Isabeau while she was on the ice, and that just feels so refreshing and so different. But
That's
it also Alyssa's
trio.
built different, right?
Oh my God, she's so built different.
Yeah.
I love her.
But of course, one of the big post narratives of this event is the three of them in press conferences being just absolutely unhinged.
Chaos, and I can't wait for more.
Oh my gosh. They're so funny and so weird together.
It's
and
great.
The
for all the polish that you can feel that they've been provided, like here are the, because we're so used to like the pat answers. I hate to use him as an example because I love him, but it's like Nathan Chen.
Yeah.
And Nathan Chen did it of his own volition because he was never going to give the press more than he wanted to. And I appreciated that because it was very intentional.
Yeah.
Like he never wanted drama. He was such a focused competitor. But I always think of Andrea Joyce interviewing him and just looking so resigned to like, you're not going to give me anything.
Yeah.
As nice a person as he was also like, he was just very composed and assured with what he was going to do.
Versus these three that more or less just ignore whatever Andrea Joyce gives them and just run off in a completely different direction.
It's great. But Andrea Joyce looks delighted.
Yeah. I mean, they're so fun. It kind of went viral, but as they were talking about each other and the different personalities, it was Isabeau saying that Alyssa keeps the hose on their toes.
That comment was so good.
It was so funny, and just recognizing this, they are such an entertaining trio. You almost kind of wish they had their own podcast together because like it would be so out
Manifest
there.
that.
Yes, maybe post Olympics. We'll get those three doing something completely ridiculous like that.
I would 100% be subscribing to every bit of that.
Yeah, it's such a unique combination going into this Olympics, and while I'm sure there are certain skating purists that don't love it, I have to think that NBC and the US Fed have got to recognize that like these three have a real potential to gather additional fan base for this sport because they are so empowering for young women. They are so interesting. Like the narrative that gets created around them is so unique and so different, and they're so much fun. And they like in an age of like viral media and memes and things like that, this crew has like sort of the greatest chance of just creating a nonstop media interest in that way.
And gosh, the United States needs that in this sport so badly. This particular week of nationals, I was so thrilled to see the turnout. and the crowd was huge at every event, but especially Friday and Saturday nights crowd was nearly sold out, absolutely to the rafters full and loud and enthusiastic. And particularly on Friday with the women's event, I know people in St. Louis that either went to it or saw it on TV and just got excited and have already started texting me questions and want to know more. And that is what we want to see. That, and I know that we always see the increased interest in skating every 4 years and then it goes away. If these three stick around past, if they are successful here and they stick around past, this could actually really help generate a whole new fan base for figure skating, and it needs it so badly.
I love that you mentioned the being packed to the rafters, because in the arena at the Enterprise Center, there are like the two main decks, and then there's like a third, like
it's
upper
a huge
deck.
arena.
Yeah, but the first couple of days that was actually curtained off, and I just kind of figured it would be like that for all of it, because even with the two decks, it's a ton of people.
Yeah, it's
but
still like 8,000 to 10,000 people.
Yeah, but it's like that upper deck is the nosebleeds. We've been up there for like concerts before.
Yeah, we saw you two up there a long time ago.
Yeah, and like up against the wall, and you're like a million miles away from the stage, right? Like
you're
it's,
like, I
it's
think
very
that's
far.
Bono, but he's the size of an ant.
Yeah, and some of our commenters say, "Oh, I'm going to be there, but I'm going to be in the nosebleeds," and I really did not think they were going to have that deck open. So when we got to Friday and the curtains had been removed and people were literally at the ceiling, I was blown away.
Yeah.
It was a pretty extraordinary thing to see. As we move on here, I want to acknowledge like how great Brady Tennell was.
She was
at this event.
Absolutely extraordinary. And in any other year, she would have absolutely been on the Olympic team. And it, in a lot of ways, it does break my heart that she's not, that there aren't four. And it's not that different than how I felt watching Japanese nationals. And in fact, with Japan, I'd probably wish we could send 5, 6, I don't know, 8.
Yeah.
But this was very similar in that Brady did an extraordinary job. And I know there were a lot of questions about her score being a little under in the short, and I do kind of agree with that. But her free skate, she got a 141.95, which is a phenomenal score for her. And I really do think, like, in the end, she's going to 4 continents, which I'm thrilled about. She is the first alternate for the Olympics. I feel bad for her, but I'm also just so thrilled that she got that moment. And two standing ovations, technically, in both programs, she got one. But in that free skate especially, it was just a really beautiful moment at the end of it.
It was, yeah. I think that the short program was very strong and very compelling, and it didn't hit as hard as the free did, but it was very good. I think the questions that we've seen, around that were just that some people felt like that she got called on things that other skaters didn't. And again, because we haven't dug into all that, the most one-to-one comparison I think there was that, like, I think Sarah Everhart kind of maybe got away with a cue or an under rotation in the short program.
Yeah, I think
Brady
she did.
got called on it, saying this as like things I was sort of reading along with while we were at the event. And in person, we could both see those under rotations, like on their programs. But yeah, for me, watching Brady in the free, I think that's the best I've ever seen her. I
agree.
It was her, we talk a lot about how she's probably the best spinner in the American women. Her spins are just lovely, but you could feel that free informed with a ton of emotion and intent.
I felt it in both programs, like just her using that music in the short, the Young and Beautiful song was, I don't know, felt so meaningful and appropriate, and it just works so well on her. So, I mean, by the end of both programs, I was feeling emotional watching her. And it's hard when you know that this is probably her last nationals. I think she's confirmed that. But
I think she even said that in the Kiss and Cry or in like one of the interview elements.
I thought so. But I'm glad it's not her last competition. I'm really happy that she gets another championship event internationally that she gets to go to, even if it's not the Olympics.
Yeah, another chance to shine, because she really has here, and considering the road that it took to get here, through so many challenges and injuries and stuff, but also just notably the moving to Benoit's camp and training in a different way that has really expanded her artistic expression pretty massively. And yeah, just in general, I think that if you're looking at somebody creating the highlight reel of their career, that's a crowning moment.
Absolutely.
Even though she lands in fourth and gets the pewter, she still walks away from this as one of those women who will always be notable in women's figure skating. And she's not done. There's still opportunities for more there. But
I'm glad she got that. If that is her last nationals performance, she ended it on a massive high.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's great.
Stepping down to Sarah Everhart, I know we're taking a lot of time on women's
here
because and there's
we're very emotional about the women because it was so incredible.
But I think, a lot of the conversation this season was about who was going to be essentially the third woman, because Amber and Alyssa felt like obvious locks. Isabeau, to us, felt like the obvious third, but there was always that opportunity for Brady and Sarah to move up and take it home, depending on just how people performed. But Sarah got pretty knocked down by judges earlier in the season, and despite being the consistency queen, technically most of the time, she actually had falls and some problems over the course of the season. And when we saw her in practice on Tuesday, she looked like a bundle of nerves. I don't think I've ever seen her look like she did at that practice.
It was worrying. I left the Tuesday practice before competition started nervous to see how she was going to do. When her short program began, I was nervous still because I was still holding on to that. And then she just was incredible, like throughout this competition. Like, yeah, she had a few cues. It wasn't completely flawless. However, seeing her in person, it was so inspiring in that, oh, you really are taking all the notes and applying them and trying to build in more of the like engagement with the audience. Like I felt more from her than I ever have watching her on screen. So I'm hopeful for the future of Sarah Everhart, even more so than I've already been.
Yeah, I do think that she's, one of those like next quadrennial stars.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But I thought the Riverdance program was so exciting and so fun. It definitely won the crowd over. You've got the questions of Cuser under rotations and how that compared with Brady, and and eventually Brady does come out ahead of her here. They flip flop between the short and the free. I will say though that the Poor Things free skate looked so much better here than what we've been seeing. One, she got another revised costume. It was a drastic improvement.
Yes, much better.
And because earlier versions of it almost felt like it interfered with her performance, and here it didn't get in the way. It just it served the story, but allowed her to be the focus, not what she was wearing. She was wearing it, not it wearing her.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it.
And while, she did slip a spot and didn't get quite as high a number here, I think that she should be really proud of the skates that she put together, because you could see the artistic evolution, and you could also see some emotion on her in the short program, some actual like facial expressions.
It was nice to see her real smiling and not kind of doing a smile at the judges and then going back to very serious face. It was like her, again, engaging with the audience, connecting with people, connecting with the music. And she even mentioned that they were doing interviews during commercial breaks.
So we got to see those in-house, but I don't think the Peacock feed had them.
I don't think so. But yeah, she even mentioned like that the crowd's emotion and encouragement only like really allowed her to feel the music more and feel that joy with the Riverdance program. So it was really cool. And I am a big Sarah Everhart fan, and I cannot wait to see her at the next Olympic Games because I predict that will happen.
Yeah. To just quickly go through some beats down the further, just to hit them fast and then move on. Sophie Jolene von Felten, I think this was our first time seeing her live. Again, one of those like stars of the future, like junior skaters. Big jumps, pretty loose on the artistry. There's
But getting better.
But getting better. There's so much talent, and you can see that over time. I think she's going to evolve into something really, really interesting.
Yeah, super special.
I just think that like right now you're still seeing some very junior kind of delivery
For sure.
but all of the building blocks are there.
Yes, but Star Andrews came in 7th here, and I feel so fortunate to have gotten to see Star Andrews in her final singles performances at nationals. She was very clear. It is she's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
She'll just be in pairs next time.
Right, yeah.
Which was so cool. And her short was exceptional.
Yeah, beautiful.
So
absolutely
good.
Beautiful. Yeah.
I was sad it didn't go quite as smoothly in the free, but hearing her voice, her singing, like not only in her performance where she sings to herself recorded, but she sang the national anthem on, I think it was Saturday night. And oh my goodness, Star Andrews.
Yeah.
Like, you're so talented.
I was so frustrated because I didn't know when that was happening. And so I went to the restroom and then it started. And then when you come back, they won't let you back into the arena until it's over.
Yeah.
And so I was stuck in a line of people who couldn't get into the actual arena seating. So I didn't know it was Star until I got back down to the seat. And we were like, oh my gosh, she was amazing. I was like, I missed it. I was so frustrated. But that short was lovely.
So fantastic.
And yeah, I'm sure that she would have liked a better free, but overall, I think that this was probably a pretty wonderful event for her.
Agreed.
And even though she dropped a spot after the free skate, this is still a really nice set of performances from Star.
Phenomenal.
And, yeah. Sherry Zhang was really great to watch. Again, another young skater who's very compelling. And every time we get a chance to see her, you just can see that there's a lot of promise with her. And just a fun personality and some really fun skating. And, you get on down the line, I think things kind of, you have a pretty big drop back, from the scores of the leaders. But overall, though, all of the women put on nice performances, and
it was just a really solid event. Once you got to that last 6 women, really, like especially the top 5, it was just mind blowing.
Yeah, the top 5 was exactly what you wanted in prime time.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Just it was absolutely fabulous.
Friday night viewing at its finest.
Yeah.
Like absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
But I do think it is time for us to move into the dance, which, to be fair, also that top 5, really that top 6, astounding.
Yeah.
So good on every level. But not gonna lie, I am still, I'm jumping ahead, and we will go back to who won and all the medals. The Browns, the Godfather.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I don't think anything hit bigger in the stands than their Godfather program, and we'll get there.
Good.
But
okay, yes, we can roll it back now.
Yeah.
Roll it back.
So the podium and the Olympic team is who we expected. It is Madison Shaw, Evan Bates, who took gold here, the silver from Amelia Zingas and Vadim Kolesnik, who were fabulous.
So good. And I want to start a whole Stan account just for them.
Yeah. And then Christina Carrera and Anthony Ponomarenko locked their way with a bronze.
So good.
So, this is what our podium is. This is who goes as the team. And it's pretty much in line with our expectations. There were a couple of caveats to it. One of it was, could Green and Parsons move ahead of CPOM? And there were some real questions about that because CPOM had not looked as good this season.
And they weren't that far apart. It was about 4 points.
Yeah, it's very close. And Green and Parsons do walk away with the pewter. And they were also terrific. They were so good here.
Spectacular. So good.
But to me, Carrera and Ponomarenko really locked in at this event. But let's go back to Madison Shaw and Evan Bates in first here, because I think that what you get with their performances here is the very obvious veteran team that is the class of the field. I actually felt like they looked a lot faster here than what we've seen at some of the earlier events, but they're not
tons of ice coverage.
Yeah, they are not like quite as energetic in some ways as the other 2 teams on this podium. But what you get is extraordinary refinement. You have like all that years of professionalism.
The thing I kept focusing on with them, beyond just being wildly entertained and impressed by everything they did, was how seamless everything looked. Like, from the lifts to especially the holds, everything just looked so innate. They looked at each other with emotion and feeling, like from Chalk and Bates, but I never saw them check to where the other one was. They knew.
They
It was
always
all
knew.
so unquestioned. If you want to talk about feeling like you're not watching a competition, you're just watching a performance, it was them. Class of the field is the easy way to put it. It's so very clear how good they are when you're watching them. And I get sometimes watching at home, so it's not as clear. Like maybe because they're so seamless and refined, it almost looks like there's no effort being put into
Right,
it.
yeah.
And you watch them in person, even in practices, and it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like it's so obvious. It was really impressive. And I agree, maybe not as exciting as Zingis and Kolesnik, but pure professionalism all the way.
One of the general rules of figure skating is that you're doing impossibly difficult things and trying to make it look as easy as you can.
Yeah.
The person who does that incredibly is Ilia Malinin. You know, he does the hardest things in the world, and often they look so easy that there's part of your brain that goes, oh, I want to try that. And then you're like, oh no.
Oh, no, I'd break myself.
Yeah, I like, it's a direct trip to the hospital afterwards. I think Chalk and Bates are kind of like that, where they're so smooth, the transitions are so clean. I think watching it without a score box, it's very easy to forget about elements and just to get involved in the performance. And like you were talking about, like you can really see how the holds transition and how they're never looking where those things are happening. It's so, I mean, you said seamless, and I don't have a better word for it, because it's like, it is just so organic. We've been fans of them for years, but I have said through a lot of this season that I haven't been as thrilled with this material. I love the music in the free dance because it's all the Westworld music. And
huge fan of Westworld. Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, astute viewers might even note that there is a Westworld maze right up here in the background of the video. It's probably not real easy to see in the kind of the shadowy background, but it's right back here.
Yeah.
We're big fans, and we love that music. But the sort of Matador bullfighter program, I wasn't sure about, and here it worked, and it did what Chuck and Bates do. You know, they take a program and sand off the rough edges and refine it until you've got something that's world class. And that's what they've done.
Yes.
And seeing those things in person, it is just a very unique experience.
It really is. But I do want to move on to Zingis and Kolesnik because, one, I love them. And two, these programs, I'm so impressed. And I'm not shocked. Like, I've been impressed with them all season, but them coming here under the pressure, which was very palpable in the building throughout the past 5 days.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You could feel both the ambient excitement, but that level of tension.
So much tension.
Hovering over everybody.
Exactly. And it was as evident on them as it was on anyone else. And yet, when they started performing, as soon as that music started, they were just all in. And I never felt a moment of hesitation. They were never holding back. And that was what was so exciting about watching them, is it was full throttle the entire way through. They were so fast and so crisp in everything they did, especially in their Romeo and Juliet program. Like the rhythm dance, their rhythm dance is like one of my favorites of the season. Like,
I definitely
period.
think it's one of the best of the season.
It's phenomenal. But their Romeo and Juliet, when they get to that footwork sequence, the character step at the end,
it's so good.
It's so good.
It's so good. Oh gosh, it hits. It hits so
and the
hard.
crowd just starts like getting all like energized in that moment with them. And it's so compelling.
Yeah.
They're amazing.
This has just been such a showcase season for this team. And you know, one of the things, the narratives we've been talking about over the course of this Olympic season is that every time you come close to the Olympics, kind of a couple of things happen. The biggest names push hard and deliver on why they're the big names. And then inevitably there's a handful of skaters or teams that rise up in the ranks really quickly, that they turn it on at the right time.
It's the Ami Nakai factor.
Yes, exactly. And Zingis and Kolesnik are that team where they rose out of the middle ranks very, very swiftly, which is hard to do in ice dance.
Very.
And made themselves undeniable this entire season and went out here and just were absolutely fantastic. I don't know what they got on the midlines or what I don't
didn't
know
see the
any
levels,
of it.
no.
All I know is that watching it in the arena, I couldn't find any mistakes. All I could find were exceptionally delivered programs that made the crowd go wild.
I felt like in the room, other than the Browns, Zingis and Kolesnik were the fan favorites.
Yeah.
Everybody was absolutely obsessed with them. And I also want to mention that we did see them briefly out on the concourse.
Yeah.
We did not approach. I was trying to not do that with any skaters. I don't want to bother anybody.
Yeah.
But I was a little geeked out. But I was like, no. However, there was a young woman who was walking around with a little sign saying, "I'm an ice dancer looking for a partner."
Yeah.
And I saw her and I'm assuming her mom, see Emilia and kind of like do the, oh my gosh, it's Emilia. Eventually, like very slowly and cautiously and politely approach. And the way Emilia and Vadim not only chatted with them, I didn't want to eavesdrop, but I noticed, if nothing else, that Emilia took her time with her. There was a hug. It seemed like she made that girl's week, month, year.
Oh, yeah.
And
it was lovely to see.
It was beautiful. And it was one of those, like, I don't need to know more than that. It just shows you're a great skater, but you're also a nice human. And that's surprising, but it was lovely to see.
But also at the Making the Team gala event, when we saw this team get their team jackets, get up on stage to be, announced as part of the team and be with their families and stuff up there. I think it was such a meaningful thing to see from Vadim, who is now, a U.S. citizen. And
after working towards it for like 9 years.
Yeah. And, that still has family back in Ukraine and, in real danger situations.
Yeah.
And to have been able to have come here and now make it to the U.S. Olympic team, and then just seeing the emotion on Emilia's face. It was a very emotional moment in the arena.
It really was.
And it felt very special. And so this is a team that 2 years ago, I just had never been really taken by.
You had trouble connecting with them for sure.
Yeah, I always thought they were flashy, but I didn't find the substance. And then there was somewhere right towards the end of I forget which event it was, but there was an event where something changed, where suddenly they went from impressive but not necessarily engaging team to, I know I gave them gold in my heart at one of those events, because suddenly I was like, oh, something changed. They evolved like almost like overnight. It felt like, from a viewing standpoint. And ever since then, I've been like totally on board, for this team. They really feel like they are setting themselves up to be kind of like the heir apparents, when Chalk and Bates inevitably retire. And it's been an incredible trajectory. I'm so excited for them. What an incredible opportunity. And I really hope that we get a long career out of them, because they're fabulous.
But massive kudos to Christina Carrera and Anthony Ponomarenko, who last season seemed like that as well, and are amongst those who are the heir apparents to Chalk and Bates. Their season hasn't been as strong as Zingis and Kolesnik's. However, here they brought back their perfume free dance, and it was so good.
Yeah.
I loved it so much. And they easily, to me, earned that spot to the Olympics. But just seeing, in particular, Christina, and the last minute of that free dance, the way she delivered that, the emotion, again, under the level of stress, where it felt like this is essentially the Olympic trials.
Yeah, everything is on the line.
Everything's
here.
on the line, and it never cut into her performance value. That is often the first thing that goes.
Yeah.
You're trying
to play
to
safe. And
you play safe, and she was not. It was very moving to me. I really loved it. So big congrats to them.
Yeah, I was thrilled with their rhythm dance. I thought that went really well.
It was very smooth.
Yeah, and I was very excited when they brought back perfume. I've not liked the Notre Dame program over the course of the season. It wasn't serving them well. And the perfume program is a perfect union of a evocative, gorgeous soundtrack and this very dark subject matter that they skate really well. I was not quite as taken with it in the arena as you were. I did really enjoy it, but for whatever reason, I didn't connect to it quite as much as I was hoping for. And I think that's probably just because they haven't skated it in 2 years. And this was their first time pulling it out again. And considering that, it was still absolutely wonderful. So I've got no disagreements with the scoring or anything on it. I just didn't personally emotionally connect the way that I wanted to.
You will.
But I think
because they're going to do it again in 3 weeks. 4 weeks, somewhere in there.
Yeah. Of course, the disappointment here is that Carolyn Green and Michael Parsons land in the pewter position and become the alternates once again. And
I'm genuinely heartbroken. I mean, again, it's the same story I had for Brady. It's I wish there were 4 spots because they are such an exceptional team. It's just when you look at how deep this field is, it's just impossible and it sucks.
I think
it just
that
sucks.
Their lifts are so brilliant.
Yes.
The way that they do their moves and their holds is unique, and their artistic point of view is so different. For me, the thing with Green and Parsons that I think I don't know that it would have made the difference in getting them into a 3rd spot, but the criticism that I have is not their skating, but it is the arrangement of their free dance. Because for 2/3 of that free dance, it is incredible. The audience is all in. It is full of so many inventive lifts and holds and
lot
transitions.
Of oohs and ahs in that audience.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
They had the audience entirely. And then the last 30 or 40 seconds of it shifts to a different piece of music, and everything after that is more technical and flowy, but no big elements. And it loses its momentum. And you could feel the arena, you could feel the energy drop. There was that sense of a crowd that was ready to come to their feet. And then you had this like denouement that drains all the energy out of the program.
It's almost like the multiple endings at the Return of the King.
Yeah, the Lord of the Rings Return of the King.
Where it's like, it's over. No, wait, it's not. Yeah. Oh, wait, it's over. No, it's not.
Why isn't this done?
Yes.
And there's a lot of different programs for people where there feels like an obvious stopping place, and you can hear the audience like ready to clap, and then there's still more of a program, and that sometimes really kind of messes up the energy and the flow. And I really think for the two of them, they were only like 2 points behind
it was close
in that free. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that would have pushed it over, but I think that they would have had a greater chance at a bigger crowd reaction if they had not lost the energy in that last little bit. But regardless, wonderful team, love their rhythm dance. I adore them.
Their rhythm dance was one of my faves.
Yeah, I do think that they are at least getting the nod for Continents.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also going to 4 Continents, and also maybe one of my favorite programs of the entire event was the rhythm dance from Emily Brody and Ian Somerville. They were so good in that rhythm dance.
Yes, what a dramatic improvement. This is a team that has faced several times over this season this kind of feeling of disrespect from judges.
A little bit, yeah.
And a lot of the talk this season has been just obnoxious ice dance scoring, which has been all over the place. Yeah. But they got some new costumes, and they were styled a little differently. The energy of it was just a little different.
Yeah.
And I loved both their skates.
Yes, both of their skates were exceptional. Again, this is one of those another heir apparent team. Like the next quadrennial is going to be real interesting in ice dance because this team is also great. And but particularly the rhythm dance for me was just so much personality, just different, very like a very bold choice. Their Vogue is just very different than like the Vogue we're seeing from like Gilo.
Yeah, dramatically different. I like it better, really.
Yeah, honestly, I kind of do too. And that's again, no shade to Gilo. They're obviously incredible.
Yeah.
But just stylistically, I like this one a little better. And I feel like it's just showing such evolution for this team. Emily especially has just come so far. Mm-hmm. Ian is such a talent, and we've all known that for a really long time.
Yeah.
But it always felt like Emily was kind of chasing him. Like she's more of the like classic skater, whereas he's, a little more bold.
Yeah.
And here I feel like they were complete equals. And I loved that.
Yeah.
So the balance is great. I just think it just shows how much they keep getting better and better.
Yeah, and I just felt like Emily was more striking in person. There are some people that like the camera just loves and locks in on, and then there are other people that when you see them in person, they just shine in a different way. And for me, that was Emily Brody. Like seeing her in person, I just felt like sometimes Ian feels like the show. He's like one of the I think it was like Nice Capade said like he's one of the few male ice dancers that pulls focus. Like that you see, kind of it's easier to latch onto him. But I thought in person that Emily really stands out in a different way than I was expecting. But they were great. But now we get to...
I can talk about the Browns
the
now.
6th place finish, and we can talk about the Browns.
Oh my God. Okay, so start with their short. Their short was great. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, their long... their free dance to The Godfather. I was so obsessed with it. It's just, they came out in full character, the commitment. I'm so into whenever a team shows commitment, and they never let it go from start to finish. It was so crisp. It was so like storyteller. It was, you talk a little bit because I'm just going to start like ranting and raving about how much I love it.
The Godfather program in the arena in person, I think that if you let the crowd pick who they'd give the gold medal to, if it was based on just one performance,
Just crowd appeal,
you would have given it to that.
No question. The crowd was like so into it.
Yeah. I don't know what it was like at home for home
I
viewers.
don't know.
So let us know in the comments.
Please. Who knows? Maybe at home it was not nearly as exciting.
I saw a little bit of feedback online. It seemed like people were very, very into it elsewhere.
So good.
But seeing it in person, the way that they've spent the season adding on to this program. They added that, of course, that extraordinary moment where she chucks him over her shoulder.
So great.
In person, it happened right in front of us, and it's nuts. It's like it's so effortless looking. All through that program, they are both in character in such a fantastic way. Early in the season, we were talking about how like Gage had really found the character moment, but Una was still not necessarily embodying it. And then like the last time that we saw them, her commitment had fully caught up, even maybe surpassed him, like where she was really locking in. And here, the comparable kind of experience I would say is, it sort of felt like when Smart and Deke did Dune at Worlds last year, and you got a full cinematic experience where like all of the individual elements stood out, but in the end, the unified package of it was just so wonderful that you couldn't help but lose your mind for it. That was what the Godfather program was here, where like front to back, everything felt like it served the story, like it served the narrative. Sometimes you get in ice dancing or any skating really, like that you're kind of trying to tell a story, but then you still got to just put these pieces in.
Yep.
And somehow the Browns and their team have put together a program that always feels like every single thing they're doing, element, required, whatever, that it serves that Godfather narrative. And when it finally finishes, you just feel like you've got a 4-minute film and you want to throw Oscars at them because it's
like, Gage dead on the ice and Una just like circling him. It's just,
she's got murder eyes
all over her.
Yeah.
I love it
so
hard.
All of
love it so much.
Yeah. All of the different elements in it just hit. The much maligned character step sequence that like so many of the teams don't do great. Green and Parsons and Zingis and Kolesnik both absolutely nail in the free, like they're so good, but like Una and Gage absolutely rock it here. It's hard to pick like a favorite moment from this entire event because there's so many enormous moments, but
this is up there.
This is definitely way up there because even though they land in 6th overall and they get surpassed in the scores, this really sets them up as one of those team of the future kind of moments because I think it's one of those things that's going to stand out to people long term.
But 5th in the free and also not that far behind. Like this was a big step for them.
Yeah,
I really
definitely
do think so.
I think there's just a couple of other beats here to hit. I mean, we could spend a lot of time on a lot of the other skaters. There were a lot of great performances. I really enjoyed Wolf Kostin and Savetsky's Kill Bill. That was like super fun. Niset Markelov were a ton of fun, but like they didn't shine the way some of the other teams did.
Not quite, no.
I think, it's worth noting that Peyton Bai had a really unfortunate fluke fall in their free that knocked them.
Felt terrible for them.
Oh, it was brutal to see that happen. And
because their rhythm dance was really strong, so this was definitely a bummer.
I'm pretty sure they are keeping going after this season,
Yes.
so hopefully they get some opportunities to get a little redemption on that. But yeah, I felt awful for them. But I think that the narrative that you have to kind of address over this whole season, the big elephant in the room, was always the return of the Shibatani siblings.
Of course.
And of course, 8 or 9 months ago, whenever it was initially announced that they were going to return to competition after 7 years, everything was made of their long-term rivalry with Chalk and Bates and them jumping into the Olympic season and basically competing for one of these 3 spots while having done nothing to be part of the earning of them over the last couple of years. And this media blitz that kind of came alongside of it, and then the controversy of the video that came out where Alex is just berating Maya the whole time. You want to root for her because she's beaten cancer and come back to try to chase the dream, but you feel kind of bad because Alex has lost, a lot of the sympathy that you might have for him, because of that video. And then in the weeks coming right up on this competition, it was just a PR cycle of them showing up everywhere.
Complete media blitz. Like you saw them, there was an article about them in Time Magazine, in Self, in Bustle. They were just kind of everywhere. They were on Alona Mars podcast. And I mean, good for them getting lots of publicity. And maybe they knew they weren't going to make it to the Olympic team because of all the scores they've been getting this season.
Yeah, because when they showed up, because they've only competed 2 times this season, and it was on the Grand Prix, and it felt like they came into it with the expectation of, we are former champions, we're just going to walk back in here and be great. Skate like a champion, right? Was, I think, one of the things that he would yell at her. And then international judges were just not impressed. And we wondered, along with a lot of the skating fandom, would they come to nationals and would the U.S. Fed put a bunch of weight behind them and try to kind of push them up towards the top? Would
because
the scores
they
be
are
inflated? Yeah.
Historically an exceptional team, and they are wonderful skaters. It's not taking anything away from their talent. It's just ice dance has changed.
Yeah.
And the programs they created and the things that they do the best just don't work as well now. And I think Gabby Papadakis, I heard, had said something along those lines in the broadcast.
She said the things that were impressive 7 years ago just aren't impressive today.
Yeah. And I mean, especially with the scoring changes, it doesn't necessarily mean they're not impressive in the they're beautiful to watch.
Certainly.
There was a lot about what they did here that was beautiful.
Some of their lifts were gorgeous.
Yes. Especially that lift in the short program was extraordinary.
Yeah.
It was really good. But when you're watching them in context of that full competition, it's really apparent this isn't it. And unfortunately I feel bad for Maya especially, but also it would have been really upsetting had their scores not landed where they were. And also we should mention that Alex had a big problem in the free dance with his twizzle.
Yeah, the twizzles came apart
They just completely fell apart.
and they just sort of lost their spot in them. But
so any even tiny chance they had was gone.
Yeah, but they were in 8th or 10th or something after
it wasn't
the short.
Gonna happen.
Yeah. I mean, I think that what's kind of notable here is that all of the mid-tier younger teams were better than them at this event.
Like you mentioned, Wolf Kostin and Sarevsky, they skated fairly close together in the free, and it was just better.
Yeah. And I think that even if you discount that mistake in the twizzle that very clearly just kind of sank any opportunity for them to go up, even after the rhythm dance, they were maybe given some generous levels and still didn't get, huge scores.
Were still pretty low, yeah.
It was just very clear that just not in the same caliber. And maybe they could have been if they'd come back a year earlier or skated more often or something.
That's what I kept thinking is that one more year, one more season of kind of getting used to the new scoring system, how big the changes are from when they were skating competitively. They could have made more adjustments. They could have evolved those programs more and really, I think it was a mistake changing their rhythm dance for one.
Yeah,
Like,
as
'cause-
much as the DDR program was a neat concept, but I didn't necessarily see the vision for it. Whatever they replaced it with did not work.
No, because it looked new. It looked
Yeah.
rough and it looked rushed. And yeah, I think it was a mistake right out the gate. And from there, I mean, they haven't said whether or not they're going to continue or not.
Alex said something. He's like that normal trajectories just aren't their thing. So
we'll see.
We'll see.
So take that for what you will.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know.
In the end, that narrative just kind of falls flat here. You know, like in the end, they're a non-factor in this event. They land in 9th. And that whole will they challenge Chalk and Bates? No. The answer was no.
The answer was a hard no.
Those challenges are coming internationally from
Oh, there's
other
lots of
teams.
challenges
Yeah.
we're going to see this coming weekend at Europeans.
Yes.
Lots of them. And they were happening in Canada while we were in the US.
Yeah. But this is the story of an Olympic cycle, is that you're building all of these crazy stories, and then you just kind of see which ones turn into the story and which ones get written out of the script. And this is one where the Shib Sibs, that plot line is done for the season.
Exactly. However, that brings us nicely into the men's event, where the plot line for Ilia Malinin is how many points is he going to win by in any competition, even when he waters down his free skate?
Yeah. So
The
this
answer is a lot. He's going to win by a lot.
We knew going into this one that Ilia was breaking in some new boots in hopes that they would be ready in time by the Olympics, and
that's pretty standard for him, is that he's breaking in new boots this time of year. It's just usually nationals are a little later.
Yeah.
So they're still very new.
Yeah. And you could see, particularly getting ready for the free skate, we were watching him in the warm-ups, and he was doing most of his jumps right in front of us during the warm-ups. And I've never seen him blow so many jumps. He just couldn't get the rotations going. He would just open up and double out. And his dad was on the side of the boards just throwing up his arms like, what is happening? And being like, you need to do this.
We all kind of were inside, like, what's happening? What's happening? It was nerve-wracking.
Yeah. But of course, the short program was bombastic.
The short program, it was a clinic. I don't understand. I'm just being honest. I don't understand how someone who is, I think he's like 5'8", something like that. I don't know. He is not the biggest guy, and yet when he is on the ice, and especially when he jumps, he looks huge.
Yeah, he looks like a giant. Yeah,
he looks like a giant.
It's bigger than his body. It is a presence thing, and his jumps are so high and so massive. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you're watching 18 other guys come out and skate. Some of them skate brilliantly. And then he comes out and you're like, oh, now I get it. Not that I didn't get it before, but it is so radically different.
I mean, we've seen Ilia 3 times in person.
And it's always boggling to watch.
Yeah.
Like, he's just otherworldly in a lot of ways.
But the short program here was just the proof of
it's what he does.
What he does, like that Ilia is just like a next level kind of skater. But the takeaway,
how does he make a Euler look so big?
Yeah. Like it's wild. But I think the real takeaway from the short program is the toothless rain that happened afterwards. That had to have been coordinated by somebody.
Oh, I know it was. Yes.
Okay.
It was coordinated, and it was all from one side of the rink.
Yeah.
And you obviously knew he did not know that was coming.
No.
But it was very bizarre because we were on the opposite side of the rink to just see this wave of black just fly onto the ice.
Just dragons flying onto the ice in a wave. And so, our side of the ice had no idea that was coming, and those things were never visible ahead of time.
No.
And he's just laughing his head off, like out there on the ice, just delighted.
It was great.
And then, of course, they played his little commercial package for the Olympics where he actually where Toothless comes down, he touches Toothless. So it was clearly an engineered moment.
Yeah.
But it was incredibly delightful and really, really fun.
It was so much fun.
And that was one of those just highlight moments of the event, because it was just engineered or not, really, really cute and
very
super fun.
Cute. And obviously he didn't know, and that was the part that was the most delightful.
Yeah.
His free skate, I mean, like you were talking about, his warm-up was rough. And you watched him even down to the last second on that warm-up practicing his flip.
Yeah.
because the flip seemed to be the one that was causing him the most grief. And like he finally got off a triple flip. So I was watching it thinking, okay, he's going to water down his program. He's only going to throw a triple flip. He could just throw triples and he would easily win this competition. Like he was already that far ahead. It was fine. But he didn't, because he's Ilia and he only threw 3 quads.
Yeah.
2 of them in combination.
Yeah.
Oh, darn.
Yeah. Not the 7 that he did at Grand Prix final.
It was definitely a watered down program. And that combination he did at the end with the quad sal and the triple axel got a little away from him at the very end. I mean, he didn't fall. He just had a hand down and foot down. But after watching 6 minutes of warm up where he could not get a flip out that was anywhere near what I'd think of as an Ilia Malinin flip.
Yeah.
Even in a triple, that first quad flip was insane.
Yeah.
It was that like, you're not human. Like, how did you do, how? Like, because he's Ilia Malinin.
Yeah.
It's that mental fortitude.
It was truly exceptional. Like the grit and the determination to really like knock it out there was so impressive.
But also, I just want to point out his exhibition. I know it didn't hit the way it did for you as it did for me. I was so impressed with his exhibition because he kind of did a mashup of his old short program from last year of running, which is my favorite program Ilia's ever done. I love that program. And I was a little bummed that we didn't get the whole program, but he does like half of it and then does this transition into Hope, one of his exhibition programs. And I don't know why, but the commitment level, the performance value, I feel like so often Ilia's trying to like create a moment and to create a mood, and it doesn't always hit. Like I love his commitment. Again, I love that word and I love that idea, but sometimes you can feel him trying too hard. And here I feel like he got it just right. And it was that moment of, oh, you are growing as an artist. And I've known that for a long time. I have not been complaining about his artistic ability. I don't think that argument holds a lot of water anymore.
No, I think that
different.
That argument's over.
Yeah, because his version of artistry is just Ilia.
Now I
it's
think
different.
it's more of a question of maturity.
And that's a really good way to put it.
It's a young man starting to settle into himself and to figure out what it means for him to be an artist and a performer and to be authentic. And I think that what you've got sometimes in his performances is very much the energy of a young man trying to be that superstar that he envisions. And even though he's the greatest technical skater the world has ever seen, he's still trying to live up to a different vision of
what he wants
himself.
To be.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always work.
Yeah.
And that, for me, at least in the room, it worked really well. And I think it was I really appreciate the way you put that, because it really is thinking of the maturity level is increasing. And it's very thoughtful performance. And it's giving the audience these big, big moments to remember. I know, I really appreciated him throughout this competition. I think what he did in the free skate was so smart, like holding back the way he did, not going full ham and just playing it strategically. It just shows a lot of growth. And I was very impressed with him this week. Yeah. Very, very impressed. He needs my impression. He's going to win a gold medal.
Right,
He's incredible.
Yeah. Well, Ilia was always going to go,
of
right?
Course.
Like so there was never any question around that. The question for the men was everything else afterwards.
The rest of this conversation I've been avoiding because I'm emotional still about this whole thing.
Everything from here gets like a little weird and different.
Yeah.
And there's some really like great stuff that came out of this, but there are some question marks and there are some brutal moments. And your silver is Andrew Torgashev. Torgs, the Pizza King, comes through here. We've been talking about this whole season how Torgs is an excellent skater, but he has choked at the last couple of Worlds and just completely fallen apart and has just felt like he hasn't been dependable. He's got some of the best footwork in the business. Like his footwork sequences are really always strong. A highlight, and he's got the jump, ability, but when a program goes awry, it typically goes very awry. And he has not looked strong enough over the course of this season that he was a lock for what we thought was the third spot, because of course we thought the second man was pretty well locked up. Turns out it was not. But I think that while there are some causes for concern with him as like going as part of the Olympic team, just because we have seen him in the highest pressure situations kind of come apart. And also because of social media crash outs and stuff like that.
He has a high potential for implosion.
Yeah.
Is the thing that I will say.
There's a level of volatility there and not necessarily feeling always like a team player based on some of the, I don't want to call it shade he threw towards like Jason Brown like a while back on Twitter, but it was like it was a young man who felt like his Olympic dream was slipping away.
Yes, that's more what I felt like.
He stayed up too late one night and got on Twitter when he shouldn't have, you know.
Yeah.
But when you're putting a team together and they do have to go compete in a team event and they're going to travel together and they're going to represent our country together, you want some sense of unity being there. And I think that the guys that are going do kind of have that amongst each other.
I do think it's going to happen.
But yeah, it always just kind of felt like I think Torgs lost some goodwill on the way there. However, that being said, his free skate here was incredible.
We used the word undeniable earlier. I think that free skate was undeniable. He came out, and for all the nerves that I saw in the short program where he did have a fall, it was gone. And I felt like this was somebody who came out onto the ice with absolutely nothing to lose, and I saw no nerves, not an ounce.
He went for broke.
He completely
threw it as hard as he could.
And man, was that exciting to watch.
Yeah.
Like, especially once he got most of his jumps done and just went into that footwork sequence and you just felt the fire under him. It was electric. And he really, really deserved that score. And he made it so that they could not keep him off that team.
Yeah.
He really did.
Yeah. And I think we'll circle back to that point here in a minute about some of that. But yeah, I think that like Torgs came through here in the way that you know that he can, and you just hope that he does it again in a few weeks.
I really, really hope he does. Because when he skates well, he's exceptional. So I hope so much for him to like have a wonderful Olympics, and that's all I'll say. I'm crossing my fingers and toes for him.
Your third place finish here is Max Naumoff.
Who I say all, I don't know if everybody did, but in the US, at least, there's a ton of emotion tied up in Max.
Right.
And we all love him.
Yeah, of course. Max Naumoff lost his parents and a lot of people from his skating club in the plane accident earlier in 2025. And Max has been sort of like the face of that club, of those families. He is the most internationally recognizable person who is a survivor, not of the crash itself, but of having lost.
The experience,
Max is also the guy who has been the pewter placement for the last couple of years.
3 years.
3 years. Yeah, it always seems like he can't quite rise to the podium.
Well, that's still on the podium, but yes.
Yeah. But
I know what you're saying. I know.
Yeah, but doesn't get into that top three spot. And Max is a wonderful skater. I mean, we have seen him live before, and he is lovely to watch. He's an incredibly authentic skater. Like,
he's beautiful to watch.
When you see him really emotionally lock into a program, even long before the tragedy, he could infuse a ton of emotion into a performance.
The biggest compliment I can give to Max is I feel like he reminds me of Paul Wiley.
Yeah.
And anyone who hasn't watched Paul Wiley performances, I recommend going and finding some on YouTube. He is the Olympic silver medalist from 1992, and I feel like Max is a bit inspired by him in some of his classicism of like his performance value, how he interprets music. It's really beautiful. And I agree, that is long before all of this tragedy befell him. Like, Max is an extraordinary skater. I think I want to focus on that a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I'm really frustrated by the NBC-ification of the tragedy.
Yeah.
I understand why they're doing it. I totally get why Max's story is, it's compelling, it's tragic, it breaks your heart, and it makes you so happy for him because you care about him so deeply and you want nothing but wonderful things for him. However, I feel like they've lost a little bit of him in this whole narrative.
Yeah.
I'm really upset that some journalists were asking him about his parents, before he went to skate.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know that was happening. And then I saw an Instagram story from the Nicecapades talking about it, and also from Figure Skating Land. And it destroyed me.
That's so out of pocket. That's
It's
so
not
like,
okay.
what are you doing? First off, don't interview people before they go on the ice. Like, that's a terrible thing to do. But specifically to be like, hey, let's talk about the worst thing that's ever happened to you right before you have to go out and skate. Like, you're not wearing that like a weight around your shoulders anyway. And yeah, that is infuriating to hear about.
It's not okay. And I'm just really hoping that, I know that it's the Olympics and they're going to look for the feel good or feel sad or whatever you want to call it, the bittersweet story. Focus on his skating, please. And the fact that he earned his spot, because they could not hand him a spot to the Olympics. He had to come here and perform.
Yeah.
And he's performing under a lot of duress, yes, but also it's still him doing it.
Yeah.
And I want them to focus on his skating more than on his story. I know that's probably wishful thinking.
I mean, there's an exploitative feeling around some of it. And, you know, we talk a lot about the NBCification of the Olympics, of this sport, you know, so much about the stories and the packages. And specifically once you get to the Olympics, it becomes about how they can drum up little narratives. And I think a lot about, like, I know there's versions of it all over the world, but like here in the States, we have The Voice, the vocal competition show that's on NBC. Yeah. And yes. One of the things I always note about that is that like every single competitor they get on there, they're always trying to figure out where can we drum up the most melodramatic story, like what tragedy is in your background that drives you to do this. They have to like pull that out of every single human interest story. And
there are reasons for that. I get
both understand it, but it does feel like exploitation at a certain point.
It absolutely does.
And that's the thing that I worry about with Max, is that they're going to drown out his narrative by making him the bearer for this other storyline. And is that part of his context? For sure. But Max is still Max. Yes, he is skating for his parents. Yes, he is skating for the people from his club. Yes, he's skating for himself. He has all of those things, and he's skating for his country. And that's so much to carry on you. You know, it's so much to be an Olympian, even without having this enormous, tragic context on top of you. What it does mean for him is that he gets this tremendous outpouring of support from the crowd.
Yes.
And you could tell how much that meant to him and like how much that helped pick him up. And to focus on his skating, it is worth noting that he didn't have perfect skates here.
No.
They were good performances, but they were rough around the edges. There were definitely problems at them. He didn't have Torgashev's, kind of breakout moments.
But they were strong.
They were strong, but he would not have been guaranteed the podium here if some other people didn't have some failings, because
that's very true.
He was in fourth in the short and fourth in the free and numerically landed in third. This is a classic men's menning event where things kind of got switched around quite a lot. And
a lot.
Yeah. And we have to go down a couple of spaces before we get to that. But before we move to some of that, let's just quickly note that the fourth place pewter finish for Jacob Sanchez is such a breath of fresh air.
It was my favorite. Like, Jacob's free skate was my favorite. I've been a Jacob Sanchez fan for a while, but in the I can't wait to see what he becomes, he became. Like, I feel like that free skate was so lovely. He was third in the free skate, and he absolutely deserved that.
Yeah, and he was in seventh before the free. So
yes, he made a nice move up.
He did.
He was just so emotive. I don't know that I've seen a man skate with the level of joy that I saw in him, especially in the last minute of his free. Every bit of him was poured onto that ice, and it was so wonderful, the joy to see, to feel, to share with him. It was just really cool. He has so much promise for the future. I cannot wait for the next quad with Jacob. Love Jacob Sanchez.
He engaged the audience so beautifully in that free skate, like really drew you in, really made you part of the performance with him. And again, that was one of those places where the crowd couldn't wait to get to their feet.
Absolutely.
He landed that last jump, and you saw that moment of elation where he's like, he knew he was going to bring it home. You love to see that moment on a skater's face where they know, oh, I've got this. I am locked in. This is going to hit, and the crowd is behind me. And it was gorgeous. And he was overcome at the end of it, and he was so thrilled. I mean, I don't think you've ever seen a happier guy with a pewter medal. You know,
like that is the happiest pewter medalist I've ever seen, for sure.
And he just made me so excited for the future of U.S. men's figure skating, because we've always figured that Jacob would eventually be a star. And I feel like this cements it, that like if he continues to skate like that, you know, he's got to evolve his technical more, but where he's at already is just incredible.
Glimmers of Jason Brown in his early days.
Yeah, there definitely is some of that for sure. Stepping down into fifth, this is where things get a little muddier, right?
Yeah.
Because in our fifth place finish is Tomoki Hiwatashi. Over the course of the last, I'd say month or two, the conversation has been, could Tomoki Hiwatashi lock a spot to the Olympics? Because even though he's been a pretty volatile skater over the years, this year he's been extremely consistent.
Yes.
He keeps delivering event after event. Like, he's gotten podium placements. His scores are always like right in the same arena. The quality has been there. He was second in the short program.
He was amazing in the short program.
And it was absolutely baller in the theater. Like,
it was electric. It really was.
It's like they're in the arena. Tomoki with that, like, I think it's Freebird.
Yeah.
Like, program.
He had the audience. They were all in for Tomoki.
Yes. Like, it was, it was thrilling. It was fun. It was so on. It was so wild to look off to the side and see Mai Hamada. Like,
oh my gosh. I know. I was like, she came from Japan for him.
Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh.
I was a little starstruck and also like scared.
Yeah. But to see her like hopping up and down, like, at the side. And after that short, it was like, oh man, like if Tomoki can retain this, he's going to lock, because he was undeniably great in the short.
And then the free.
Yeah.
And it was good. He did get a standing ovation.
He did.
In the arena, everybody was really into it. But even in real time, you were like, are these being rotated? And then you started watching the replays on the big screen and feeling the, what's going to happen here?
I think there's like two things to kind of note about that free. One is, like you said, like you were seeing a lot of under rotations, and because we haven't gone back and reviewed all of the other skates in the protocols, like I don't know how that matches up with how other people were called, but the program really lost energy. But I think that there's a pretty strong reason for it.
There is.
He skated right after Jason Brown.
Yes.
We'll get to that in a minute. But that previous skate just sucked the energy right out of the room.
And I absolutely think it affected his presentation and how the crowd reacted to him.
Yes.
I think it was double-edged.
Yeah,
for
and
sure.
also we know that
that was punny.
We also know that Tomoki is a huge appreciator of Jason Brown. They came up, I think, out of the same club, and they had shared a podium earlier this year.
Well, they're both out of Chicago.
Yeah, and Tomoki was so thrilled to do that. And so to have somebody who is like a hero to him, then just have just this awful performance right ahead of him, and you can just feel this shocked nature because I mean, in the arena, I'm sure at home it was tough. In the arena, it was a gut punch.
It was brutal.
And
it was really brutal.
I was so worried about Tomoki as it got started, because I was like, it's really hard to shake off that kind of energy in a room after something goes as bad as that does. And I think that he did a pretty commendable job of trying to recapture the energy that he'd had in the short, but he also he never got that energy meter up. He always felt like he was lagging just a little bit behind, struggling just a little bit. And even though he didn't fall over the place or anything, when we were watching the replay in the arena on the big screen above us, we were just seeing under rotations all over the place.
We were. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'm still heartbroken. Tomoki has been so good all season, and I don't feel like what he did here shows any wavering from that, really.
No.
Like, I feel like to do even as well as he did after Jason's performance shows tons of resilience. I understand why he was left off the Olympic team, but also I don't love it, because I feel like if you're looking at body of work throughout the past year, Tomoki has only shown, hey, I am more reliable.
Yeah.
And I get it. I don't want to dig in too far on it, but
I do actually.
Okay, we can go there.
Because I wasn't like heavily monitoring conversations online in real time at the event, but I was seeing some of the chatter. And that was one where it seemed like a lot of viewers, both people who were in the arena and people who were at home, felt like Tomoki got tanked. Like
I tend to agree.
Yeah. There was a feeling of you underperformed here in this big moment, and it doesn't serve our narrative for you to be that guy in this moment. And that I think that the general consensus was that he should have gotten a higher score than he did.
Yeah.
And that feeling that if he had say stayed in the pewter spot, there would have been a harder conversation to have about who should actually get sent based on the body of work. We know that the judging criteria for how you choose the team, like that nationals is weighted very heavily.
Yes.
It is a big deciding factor, but it's not the only factor. And there's a whole equation that goes into it. And that if he had been in pewter, it still could have been argued that like his results over the course of this season were far more consistent than the other two guys that got picked for the team here, and that maybe he was the better choice even if this particular skate didn't go as well. So him being dropped into 5th
makes it an easier thing to leave him off the team.
And that's when we were talking earlier about there always feels like there's a little bit of gamesmanship happening. And even when you're sitting in the arena, we're right, like just off to the side of the judges, and you can see them having conversations with each other, right? Like there's that thought of like, I want all these people to be sitting in isolation, hitting those buttons, hitting those numbers. And there's that sense of like, what do we want to do here? And this is no shade at Max, it's no shade at Torgs. And I have not reviewed the protocols. You know, it's definitely like that performance did not hit in the room in the way that you wanted it to, but following after Jason, it was a tough road to hoe, you know? And I don't want to say like definitively that like that he got sacrificed in order to create the perfect NBC team or whatever in this moment, but it did kind of feel like his scores were lower than he deserved. And I feel really bad for Tomoki because he's been so great this whole season, and you can't deny that his short program was one of the best of the event.
100%. But since we have been alluding to Jason, I think we need to talk about it.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it, but we have to.
This is a monkey's paw kind of situation, you know, where it's like you like the classic idea of like of the monkey's paw that grants you a wish, but once the monkey's paw curls, it's like you get that wish
in a way you don't want.
Exactly. And it's like, so like, I feel like so many of us hope that Max Naumov would make the team.
Of course.
But we all assumed that Jason was the second man. And Saturday morning, we got to have this kind of like little media meetup. We just went to a small meetup that had other like working people in media and press and stuff. That was it was just very informal, but it was just nice to meet some other people in this world. And one of the veteran people that was at it said something in the room during our conversations that they were like, they could see a world where Jason Brown didn't make this team.
Yeah.
That they had seen him in performance and in practice enough in person this season that they were worried that he wasn't going to have the juice. And in the room, everybody was like, oh, I mean, I guess, but gosh, how, you know? And his short program, we know he's been struggling with triple axles all season, but in the short, the triple axle worked, and then it was his combo that had some problems, but he very stylishly worked his way out of it, out of a problem.
And his river dance was still a delight.
Oh yeah, it was fantastic. I mean, I'm so grateful that we got to see that.
Oh my gosh,
in person,
100%. It was so much fun.
Yeah, and he was in third after the short. I couldn't have imagined the free. I just could not
in no way,
have
shape, or
imagined that.
form. No. It's honestly even hard to talk about because it was so worrying.
Mm-hmm.
His warm-up, also, I want to point out, his warm-up was actually pretty strong.
Yeah,
it wasn't like amazing, but it wasn't bad.
He looked relatively secure.
Yeah.
I mean, we were so focused on watching Ilia blow his jumps that I don't know that we were paying that much attention to him.
That's fair. But in what I watched of Jason, I didn't see anything that caused me great concern.
Yeah.
Seeing him fall on his first triple axel wasn't that big of a shock because we know that he's been struggling with that jump all season.
Yeah.
It's not great, but it's also like again, it's one jump. And so you move on.
Mm-hmm.
But it was him skipping.
Yeah, he
and
waltzed.
marking.
Yeah.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
And that's whenever it was like the whole room just stopped.
Oh, just the air just got sucked out of the
silent.
arena.
Yeah. And from that point on, all I could think was, what's wrong? Are you okay? Like, skating didn't matter. I was just like, that is so antithetical to Jason, as was the rest of that program.
Yeah.
At several points, I thought he was just going to stop.
Yeah.
Like, I thought we were watching, I think you referenced like the Kevin Amos moment.
There was a moment where I felt like, is this like the Kevin Amos French Nationals from a couple of seasons ago where it felt like he had just given up on the program? I mean, he doubles out a couple of the jumps. He falls again.
Several times.
Yeah. And I think was there 3 falls? I think
there was 3. I honestly, I was in so much shock. I'm not 100% anymore.
It was brutal. It was so emotionally impactful to have a room full of people who clearly know who this guy is, know his quality, know his history.
And kept trying. Like, everyone is like clapping and just trying to bring him out of whatever is happening because we all love him.
Yeah.
Like, Jason is a pillar of the sport. He is such an incredible sportsman and he's so beloved. And we're all just like, you felt that whole arena just wishing they could go out on the ice and lift him up.
Yeah.
And it just didn't work. And I'm sure I was not the only person like crying. Like, it just, worried.
There were a lot of tears in the audience. And you have that feeling like, is he hurt? Did he just get really awful news? There was like things going around. And again, we didn't watch the NBC feed because we're in the room. Like, we were like in eyesight of Johnny and Tara Gannon, through this whole event. And I saw somebody post that before or during Jason's skate that Johnny had said something that there was like talk backstage about Jason in some way. And the insinuation that I saw somebody make online was like, oh, were people gossiping about him?
Or were they concerned?
Yeah. And that's what I've never been able to really kind of figure out like what that comment meant. Was it just people saying Jason doesn't look as good, or he does not seem like himself, or like
something seems off. Like, we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know what what Johnny might have meant was he was talking to other coaches and other media people, and they were saying, we're concerned because it doesn't seem right. And I don't know what that is.
We don't have context for it, but I just hope he's all right. Like, he seemed in the post interviews to just be like he alluded to the fact that it seems like it was just a mental collapse. Yeah. And that happens. We've seen lots of skaters, Kevin Amos that we just mentioned, but many others have had moments. The mental side of it is so brutal. The pressure is so intense.
Yeah.
And I think it was just because it's Jason and we've come to expect such, like, even if it's not perfect, it's wonderful. So it was gutting.
I'm going to take a different critical tack here for a moment. This entire season, we've been talking about how we did not like that free skate. You came on board with it eventually. Yeah. I've hated the musical choice from go. I just do not like it. And if there's a place where like Adam Rapon and I have something in common, it's that we both don't like song choices that feature phrases like "I stumble and fall," like this song has in it. And it's hard to deny the emotional impact of a song that is say something, I'm giving up on you, or talks about I stumble and fall or whatever, and has this air of like feeling like giving up.
It feels defeated.
It feels defeated. And when the program goes as badly as it does, it takes on this whole different flavor.
Yeah.
And I have disliked this program the entire season. I was so desperate for him to change it. I don't like the music. I hate how the thematic ends up dovetailing into a bad performance here. He does get named, I believe, to 4 continents and worlds.
Yes, thankfully, because of the body of work that he has had throughout the past 2 years.
The body of work, and I've got to think that's the U.S. Fed saying, we want to give you an opportunity to go out on a better note. To finish your career on not this. Because if this was not that it would change anything about the narrative of the incredible skater that Jason Brown is, but this is not, for a skater of his caliber and his history, this is not what you want as the final performance.
But it also was not something they could not acknowledge, and what kept him off the Olympic team. Yeah. Like, they know that everybody expected and wanted Jason on that team, but also with that performance, there was no way they could justify it.
And I saw some people, again, online, some arguing that his body of work should have said, like say over Torgashev or, everybody wants Max to go, but
loved that to be true.
Yeah, because Jason coming through at Worlds last year is why we get to send 3 men to the
100%.
Olympics, and he is a guy who tends to come through. But you have to look at an entire season where he's just never quite risen to those levels that he has before.
But also having a meltdown at the highest pressure and then sending him to the Olympics.
You can't do that.
I can't argue. Like, as much as I want to argue it, and I genuinely want to argue it, I can't.
Yeah, this event has to matter. And, if he had been in pewter,
if he had been pewter, I don't think there would have been a conversation. I think he would have been going to the Olympics.
But when you fall 3 times and skip an entire jumping pass.
I mean, it wasn't even just that. We know how brilliant Jason is.
Yeah.
Watching that program was complete disaster, and it not even in the subtle way.
Yeah.
It was just, it's not something he'll probably ever want to think about again, except in like a conversation with someone to help him figure out how that happened.
Yeah. Let's end the men's on a high note, which
Please.
is just to talk about Jimmy Ma's free skate.
Oh my God, Jimmy Ma, you devil, you.
That was the party.
It was such a party.
We've talked about how Jimmy clearly at some point in the season said, you know what, there's no way I'm making this Olympic team, so I'm not going to try to do some fancy free skate that's designed to get the
points
Olympics
and make the judges happy.
Instead, he was going to bring the party and do the thing that was going to cement him as an incredible show skater.
And get an entire audience of almost, 18,000 people doing the YMCA with him.
Yes. The crowd was lit.
Oh, it was so much fun.
Everybody was into it. It was a total thrill. People were having such a great time. I really question what the hell he was doing with this when he first introduced it. I was like, Jimmy, what are you doing?
What that Adam Rapon said? Because Adam Rapon, we love you. He was
doing the kiss and cry interviews.
Exactly.
That you were probably not seeing at home if you weren't, there.
And I feel bad because Adam was doing a great job with it.
Yeah.
And particularly with Jimmy Ma, I think he just put his arm around him and went, Jimmy, you're insane.
Yeah. It was great. It was a great moment. Jimmy absolutely won the crowd. He got the moment that I don't think he could have from a regular program.
No.
Instead, he got a wildly enthusiastic standing ovation from an audience who appreciated that he came to bring the show. Yeah, he's an 11th here.
It doesn't matter.
He lands outside the top 10, but he gets one of the best moments of the event.
Easily. No, Jimmy Ma.
It's all that matters.
All right, let's wrap this up because we've been talking a long time about the pairs. So I want to remind everyone, and I'm sure it doesn't need to be said, but I'm going to do it anyway. Elisa Efimova and Misha Mitrofanov won this. Contrary to the fact that you did not see them at all or even hear mention of them, as far as I'm aware, on Sunday's Olympic announcement because they could not go to the Olympics. I was really bothered by that. Not bothered by the fact that they can't go. Of course they can't go.
Yeah, but there's a weird erasure of 2 of the podium teams here. Because,
just not even acknowledging them.
And maybe we could hear some of the Terry, Johnny, and Tara conversation in the arena during the gala event,
but not all of it.
Not all of it.
So maybe at home you guys got it.
Yeah, maybe you got it there. And I get why you have to build the hype around this. And it's a little tough to be like, our best team we can't send, so here's the also rans, right?
And you don't want to make those moments for the 2 that are going any less.
Right.
I get that. But it just hurt to just know that they had worked so hard, won by 10 points. Mm-hmm. And
we're definitively the best team here.
Absolutely.
Even though there was a really scary moment in the free where Misha had a very uncharacteristic fall and it almost looked like Elisa clipped his head with her blade, and you could see how scared she was in that moment. And then they just got it back together and did the rest of the program. But that was right in front of us, and the angle that it happened at, it looked like she'd clipped him in the head.
Yeah.
And
I was
So
terrified. I thought we were going to start seeing blood on the ice. Mm-hmm. It was scary.
No, but he shook that off, and then they were perfectly fine. And then they,
the rest of the program was pretty solid.
Yeah, it was really good. I mean, there is a real difference in their skating compared to everybody else. And we've seen them a couple of times live now, and they're great. And so it is a shame to have a team that just didn't manage to pull off the citizenship for her in time, even though there was a lot of talk leading up into this, like, oh, are they going to be able to make that happen?
And I feel like to be honest, like I feel like the talk was it was never going to happen. Not to be a downer, but like think about the fact that it took Vadim and Christina Carrera as long as it did. Like
Yeah.
I love Elisa Efimova, and I think that she's an incredible skater, but she has not been here as long.
Yeah,
And
it was going to take a bill through the Senate. And, there's kind
Yeah.
of bigger, more important things happening in the U.S. right now that for the Senate to pay attention to than just one person's citizenship for the Olympics. So,
yeah. And so while they were wonderful, I do feel like that narrative was not the best. But in any case, I didn't love being in the room on Sunday, having the day before, 2 days before, having seen them won their championship for the second time. And then at least in the arena, them never even being mentioned felt weird.
Yeah.
And I get it. We were focused on the Olympic team and not on nationals anymore. Even the brand sponsorship had changed. The boards were different by the time we got to Sunday. So it makes sense, but it made me sad for them, I guess, just on a personal level. I don't know them, but I just felt for them.
Yeah. It's super tough. I mean, they had to be aware, ready for this contingency,
Of course.
but it's brutal. Now, Ellie Cam and Danny O'Shea being part of this Olympic team was always kind of a given, unless they had completely collapsed here like they did at Nationals last year.
I still think somehow there would have been.
They probably still, I mean, well, and really what it comes down to, like I said, like 2 of the podium teams could not make this
go.
team. So you're in a very real situation where like some of your top teams are just not available. So pairs is our weakest division. And, and even though I adore Camo, I mean, they're a great team. They're super fun. Their gala is awesome.
And their lifts are so impressive, especially.
Yeah.
But just like their pairs elements in general are so strong.
Yeah. It's the jumps, it's the landings from Ellie. It's it's the same narrative it always has been. They've gotten a lot better.
Much better.
And there's a ton of refinement in what they do, but inevitably like there's some issues there too. And like you were saying, I mean, they were 10 points behind Efimova and Mitrofanov, but they were still terrific. And them making the team is, one, no surprise, and two, is great, especially thinking about Danny and his super long career.
Yeah, it's wonderful for him. And to be fair, their free skate was only like 3 points behind Elisa and Misha. So, and they were very, very good in the free. They had I think a fall on one of the throws. And yeah, it was still some issues, but in general, they 100% did exactly what they needed to do to confirm what we all kind of already knew, that they were going to the Olympics for the first time, and I'm very excited for them.
Yeah, you get McBeath and Parkman in the bronze medal spot, and I think that again, Daniel doesn't have citizenship, so he and Katie are not Olympic eligible. This was never on the table for them. Yeah. And I think they're always aware of it. I think the unfortunate thing for McBeath and Parkman is that this is a team that has been on the podium for 2 years in a row and just is never a team anybody's talking about,
Never.
like, and it's unfortunate to have a team that does tend to deliver, at least at nationals, and have been nicely consistent over the course of the season. They're just not the most exciting team, but watching them in person, I really enjoyed them. Like
this is the second time we've seen them, and they're good. They're really good.
Yeah, they're really good, but they just don't tend to capture the attention, especially in Olympic season when it was pretty much always known it was just not going to happen. So I'm thrilled for them that they have another national medal.
Yes.
But it was again kind of a bit of erasure that they were not being discussed in any way after the fact. The kind of crazy surprise here is Emily Chan and Spencer Akira Howe landing in 4th in the pewter position and then making it to this Olympic team.
Yep.
Because they did not have a good short program.
Oh, it was disaster.
Yeah.
Not disaster like Jason's, but pretty bad. Pretty rough.
The thought I think everybody had was that they were done. That like after how bad the short program was, it felt like everybody was like
everybody. I want to give her credit. Yep. Nice capades.
Really?
Because I saw on Instagram that I think Jackie Wong from Rocker Skating had mentioned like this was the end for them, probably most likely.
That it was like statistically unlikely that they could pull back up.
And she did the like, not so fast. I don't think you're right. And then what do you know?
Yeah.
So credit to you.
Yeah. So I want to note 2 things. Like one, they're 8th in the short, but they were 3rd in the free. We did not see the free.
No.
Because so this event was broken up in kind of a weird way where for Friday and Saturday, you'd have group 1. So like the lowest rank, like warm up group would go in each of the disciplines ahead of like the broadcast. You know, they basically
like
were taking
early in the afternoon.
Yeah, they're taking all the people who were going to typically score lower, and they stuck them in the non-broadcast time period. And because of us being here in St. Louis and driving back and forth and having other events we were doing and other stuff too, we couldn't do those afternoon events. We were coming in for the later stuff, and so we just didn't see them. So when we showed up,
out, especially in this instance, but in general,
I
didn't love how that was broken up at all.
Yeah, no, it was tough. But Chan and Hal, like being in first when we showed up there was no big surprise.
No, not at all.
Them then making their way up back into fourth. I mean, again, this is pairs, like anything can happen, but it was very, very surprising. But we did not see their free. So I can't comment on it. I don't know anything about it.
I know, right? Which is so frustrating.
What's funny to me is that, like, I don't remember which day, maybe Friday, we were out on the concourse and we were standing off to the side. I think we were going to do like one of our little videos that we were doing for Instagram through this whole event. And then I realized, like, standing right behind us was Emily Chan. And then a second later, Alexander Selevko appeared next to her.
Her boyfriend.
Yeah, her boyfriend, the Estonian skater. And I had a moment, I was like, oh, that's so cool. And, seeing those two of them together. And then I was like, oh, but what a bummer, because they'd only done their short at this point, and they were probably expecting to not make the team. And I was like, oh, like, I'm definitely not going to engage with you and be like, hey, how's it going? Like, probably not great. Well, it went fine.
It went great. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they rose back up and they did what they needed to do, and they locked in with the team. And because I didn't see that free skate, I can't comment on whether or not they undeniably, yeah.
However, we did see Audrey Shin and Balazs Naj, who admittedly we were definitely pulling for here.
Yeah.
They were second in the short program.
They were great in the short.
That new Moulin Rouge short, I kind of hope they keep for next season. They were really phenomenal, and you could see the growth as like a connected team.
Yes.
Very, very much so in that short program. Also worth noting, hilarious and fabulous to watch Megan Dumel and Bruno Marcotte like standing off to the side, jumping and jumping and jumping and screaming and banging the boards and just losing their minds, just so happy at the end of that short program.
Yes. Megan is hilarious because she's tiny, but she is just like a pogo stick. She is just like bouncing up and down on the side of the boards and yelling so loudly that you can hear her through the entire arena.
Yes.
And that short program was like, especially after them just having one golden spin, you're starting to see the promise of this team really start to come through. And with them coming in second in the short program, there was that feeling of like, oh,
this is going to happen.
This is going to happen. This could really happen for this team. They've only been together for 2 seasons, and this is really working. And then the free didn't work quite right. And I feel like they got the same experience that Tomoki Hiwatashi got in the men's.
Yeah.
They got a program that didn't quite come together, and that was like a death of 1,000 cuts, just like lots and lots of like
nothing big except that last lift.
The last lift is really what kind of does them in here.
Yeah.
Because their last lift, they end up getting like a group 3 base on it, which,
if you want something that's going to tank you, that's the one.
Yeah, and Balazs talked about it afterwards, where he was like, even as it was about to go up, they kind of knew something was wrong. They didn't know what, that something had gone weird and that it didn't work quite right. I mean, in the audience, like, we could tell that it hadn't gone great.
We could tell that it came down fast.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't look bad, but it was not a complete lift. You could see that for sure.
This was one of those programs where, even though there were problems, it felt like they were trending up towards the end.
Yeah.
And then the program lost steam in the last 30 seconds and kind of came apart. And again, not horrible.
No, not at all. And still a 5th place finish here is not bad for them, but I do agree that, like you had mentioned with Tomoki, if they had gotten just a little bit higher and made it on into that 4th place position, they couldn't have been denied.
They're 1.5 points behind Chan and Hao.
Right.
And that feels like...
when it's that close.
Yeah. It feels a little bit like the judging team said, let's sneak them into 5th, and then we don't have a challenge here for who should be getting taken.
It's not that they didn't make mistakes. Both teams made considerable amounts of mistakes. I just think without having seen Emily and Spencer's performance,
Yeah.
I feel like I can't say what I want to say.
Yeah.
But I send out a lot of love to Audrey and Balazs, and I hope so much that they take this experience and run with it. Let's make 2030 our mission and make sure we are absolutely undeniable on that team.
Yeah. I mean, they are 5th at nationals in their 2nd season. They were, second in the short program. This is really big stuff for this team.
It
I
is.
mean, obviously you want to make it to the Olympics, and obviously they both have had long careers already, they're still a young team, but they have been,
They've been at this a while.
Yeah, yeah. So you're chasing the dream, and the dream slipped away here. However, I think a lot of opportunities are going to open for this team.
Agreed.
In this next season and beyond. So I really hope that they stay locked in and really try to, take what they can learn from this and continue to evolve, because I do think there's a ton of promise in this team.
Tons and tons.
And yeah, they're the other team I kind of prefer would have been sent, because I just don't always find Shannon House super compelling, and I never feel like they don't ever feel connected as a partnership.
That's really what I notice is I think they're more polished for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. They're
Audrey
a veteran
and Balazs.
team.
They're a veteran team, and you can feel that polish on them. And as people, I really like them. I think Emily's a sweetheart, and I don't know as much about Spencer, but I think that I'm happy they're going. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But I agree. I'm not as excited by their skating these days. I'm very excited considering how long they've been together and how hard they have been fighting. Just on that emotional level, as a human, I'm excited for them. But as a team, watching them, I do wish kind of Audrey and Balazs were going, and especially knowing our American pairs teams. I don't know if Ellie and Danny are going to continue, considering how old Ellie.
They made a big deal about
Ellie
how
is and Danny is.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a pretty big
Yeah.
age gap there, and we don't know how long Danny's going to be able to do this. But also, I'm hoping that Elisa and Misha by that next Olympics are, easily able to go to the Olympics, and there's no question. And I don't know if Katie and Daniil will keep going. What I'm trying to say is Audrey and Balazs are the future, and it's one of those US Fed hasn't really been a proponent of bringing the younger teams with them to get the experience in their first Olympics, so that by the time they go to the second Olympics, they're more prepared and ready to really challenge. And for that, I really wish Audrey and Balazs had gotten that chance. But regardless, I am excited for Emily and Spencer, and I'm sure they're going to be great at the Olympics. I'm just a little disappointed because I really do love Audrey and Balazs.
Yeah. I think we can wrap up our coverage here.
I think we need to. We've been talking a long time.
It's been about 2 hours. Now, of course, this same weekend, Canadian Nationals happened. We're not going to talk about that here.
We can't.
There just
we
isn't
didn't
space.
see it.
We didn't have a chance to see any of it. I mean, we know the results, but but we can't really commentate on other than you could just list
Hopefully
it out.
we'll talk about that at another time.
Right. Yes. But I think that what we should do then before we wrap this up is just look at what is our gold in our hearts.
Oh my gosh.
Performances from this event. If you need to take a minute, I can give you mine.
Okay. I love that.
But I have a bonus.
Okay.
So I'm going to start with the bonus. It would be like a gold in my heart, except for she won gold. I want to throw it out for Amber Glenn's gala performance.
I love that.
She was exceptional in the Making the
I
Team
think that's the
gala.
75th time you've used that word.
Exceptional, outstanding, incredible, the moment, whatever you want to say about it. Yes, I need some more adjectives, but Amber is she's Amber. She's a wonderful skater in general, but she brings just something unique to gala performances where you get to see a different version of her. I mean, that's one of the things that's always kind of the best about the galas is when you get to see somebody literally let their hair down and play a different character on ice. And Amber does that amazingly. And I want to highlight that as one of my fave things just from the event was that.
It was definitely the performance of the gala for sure.
Yeah.
It was so good.
But gold in my heart is the Browns for The Godfather. There are so many great moments from all of this, but if there's one just encapsulation of what a great event it was, what a great crowd it was, what wonderful skating was happening. The Browns doing the Godfather free skate for me is just like all of that summed up in just one absolutely phenomenal 4 minutes.
Okay. If you got a bonus, so I'm going to put in my bonus.
Sure.
My bonus is Jacob Sanchez, just because he, to me, is like gold in my heart of the future.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if that quite makes sense.
Future star.
Future star.
Yeah.
It was like the promise of the premise for me.
Yeah.
That was Jacob Sanchez. But yes, gold in my heart in terms of what they put on the ice is 100% the Browns, because I don't think I had a more like exciting 4 minutes of just wonder and amusement. I just felt myself taken to a totally different place, and they were so phenomenal. It was watching somebody level up in real time.
Yeah.
It was so cool, and I'm a big fan of that program, and it was incredible.
Just in general, to be a figure skating fan and a U.S.-based figure skating fan, having this be our nationals right ahead of the Olympics was, especially considering so many other things going on in existence right now. It's trying to hold on to your joy when there's a lot of stuff that wants to steal it.
There was a lot of joy to be found here,
yes.
For sure.
And it just feels like this could be a catalyst towards a real resurgence of this sport that we love so much here in the States. I'm so in love with so many of the choices for this team. I'm over the moon for women in ice dance, like those two like team selections.
Those two disciplines. Whew. Love it.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So in the comments, wherever you're listening to this, let us know, did you watch this at home? Were you in the arena? Did we meet you? Say hi again. It was so great to see so many of you and to get a chance to talk with a bunch of you. What an incredible experience that was as well.
You made our experience so much better. Just every time anyone said hi, it was just such a delight.
Yes. The occasional, like, at some point just having like somebody come in and sit down and then their eyes go big and be like, wait a minute, I listened to you guys. Like that's so cool.
It's so surreal. Really neat.
Especially because we were masked through a lot of it too, just protecting ourselves because we didn't want to come home with the event crud, because the flu and everything going around. So in any event, let us know, what were your favorite skates? How did you feel about this? If you watched it at home, did you get a different perspective than us? Did it
feel totally different than what we just described?
Right, yeah, because it's entirely possible that in some of those moments that, it just did feel, very different to you. So, let us know all of that. And then I know we're going to be back with you to talk about Europeans. I don't know if we'll get a Canadian one out the gate. I mean, this ate our life for the last like 8 days or something,
Yeah, I had to go back to my day job this week, and I don't know what day it is. I don't know what year it is. I'm very confused.
Yes, I need about 5 more naps and for the bruise of my hand to go away from clapping so hard at the women's event. So stick with us for whatever the next thing is going to be. And for Choreography, I'm Adrian Buskey.
And I'm Wendy Buskey.
And we will talk to you next time.
Bye-bye.